In this video, we're going to be talking about the Leslie model for population growth. In other words, what we're going to do is we're going to take a look at a population of a certain species, and we're going to see how their population growth or population increases or decreases over a certain amount of time. So let's go ahead and dive into a problem. On the screen here, you have the definition of what a Leslie model is, but let's go ahead and pay attention to all this information that is in this table here. Now, all this information will always be given to you, and the way it's broken up is that for this age group or for this certain animal, and we'll just go ahead and call this rats. We have a different amount or a different set of ages for rats that we're putting in a cage. Okay, so let's just say, for example, um, let's put some more information here. Let's just say we have 10 rat babies that are going into a certain cage. And then we're also going to put 10 rats that are 3 to 6 months old. We're going to put 10 more rats that are in the age group of 6 to 9 months, and then we're going to put 10 rats that are 9 to 12 months old. And we don't have any rats that are 12 to 15 or 15 to 18 months. Okay, so we have a total of 40 rats in a particular cage. Of course, I'm making the cage up, but I'm trying to set up the problem here. So here's what's going on. We have put 40 rats in the cage, and we are actually going to walk away from the cage for about 3 months. Okay, so we're walking away for 3 months, and we are going to see how the rats either increase or decrease in age group. And also we're going to check the overall population. And before we figure out the overall population, we have to figure out how many rats are actually reproducing that is, how many new rat babies there are. So what we're going to do is first we're going to take the population for each age group, and of course all this information will be given to you, so don't stress over that. We're going to take the population of each age group, and then we're going to multiply it by the birth rate. Because under the Leslie model, rats or any population they have babies first before they die. So we're going to take this 10 here and multiply it by this 0. Okay, and when we do that, when we multiply 10 times 0, we get 0. So basically what it means is with that 0 that we just found out is that there's no rat babies having more babies. Okay, they're too young for that. That's why the birth rate is at 0. How about the 3 to 6 month old? There are 10 rats, and we're going to multiply it by 0.03. So 10 times point 3, I'm sorry, 0.3 is 3. So that means 3 babies were born within that 3 month time that we walked away from the cage. And we're going to keep multiplying. 10 times 0.8, so 10 times 0.8 gives us 8. And then 10 times 0.07, 10 times 0.7 is 7. And then obviously these zeros are going to zero themselves out. So that's 0, that's 0. So if we were to total all this information up, let's see, 3, 8, 6, 18. There are 18 brand new pink babies that were born within those 3 months that we walked away from the cage. Now the next question we got to ask is, how many babies actually survived? Or how many rats actually survived? And so once again, you're going to do the same exact thing you did with the tens and multiplying. You're going to take the initial population of each age group and you're going to multiply it by the survival rate because we want to know how many actually survived those 3 months. Okay, so if we were to multiply, the first thing it would be 10 times 0.6, which gives us 6, running out of room here. Let me rewrite that. So it was 10 times 0.6, which gave us 6. And for the 3 to 6 months, remember originally we had 10, but we're multiplying it by 0.09 to get 9 rats survived. Multiply this 10 by 0.09 again. Keep on saying 0.09, 0.9. And then 10 times 0.8 gives us 8. So, and of course, all these zeroed out, so that will be 0, that'll be 0. So if I was to ask you, of the original 40, how many actually survived? Let's see, that would be a total of 32 rats. So just a little bit of information that we have here is that we originally started out with 40 rats. Of those 40 rats, 32 actually survived, to where 18 new rats were born. Okay, so that's what this information tells us. So let's see if we can answer a couple questions here. All right, so based upon this information. So how many rats were born during this first 3 months? Well, there were 18 born because that's what our birth rate tells us. How many rats died? Well, notice that originally we had 40 rats, but now we have 32 rats. So if you do the quick math, it was simple. 8 of the original 40 ended up dying. But what are the new population of rats? Well, here's what I want to make sure you're aware here. If 32 rats ended up surviving and 18 new rats or 18 rats were born, what is the new population? Well, you just simply add those together. So you add the birth rate and survival rate, and you get a total of 50. So notice here that originally our rats, we had a number of 40, and now we have a number of 50. So that means we actually increased by 10 rats. So the population increased. Okay, well, let's say that we wanted to do this entire chart one more time. So we walked away from the cage after 3 months, but let's say we decided to walk away again for an additional 3 months. So that means we're going to see how the population changes yet again. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, so make sure you pay attention here. This information right here, off to the side that I'm about to highlight, this information is going to be the information that you're going to need. Okay, see how we started off with the 10, 10, 10, 10 off to the left-hand side with the population of rats? Those numbers have now changed. Okay, now notice right here with this 6 that I just kind of boxed in. This 6 represents how many babies actually survived. So they have now moved into the next age group. Okay, 3 to 6 months, 9 survived, so they will move down to the next month too, or the next age group. 9 and then 8. And that stays 0 because nobody. But if you notice that we don't have any rats, we don't have any baby rats. So what we have to do here is we are going to take the number of rats. Remember the number of rats that were born, 18, and now it is now my new number of rats here. Okay, so basically what happens is this information just builds upon each other. So originally, remember we started off with 40. Now we have 50 here. Okay, and that means all my babies, all this information that we worked out during our last cycle, that is now going to be replaced and redone once again. So in order to figure out all my information, once again, I got to figure out my babies. So I got to multiply the number of rats to each birth rate. So that'll be 18 times 0 equals 0. So no rat babies are having babies. And then next will be 6 times 0.3, which I believe is 1.18 or 1.8. I'm sorry, 1.8. And then we're going to multiply 9 times 0.9, which I believe is 8.1. We're going to do that yet again, 9 times 0.9. And now our numbers are getting a little unfriendly because of the fact that we're given decimals, but still, we have to go with it. So 8 times 0.6, I believe that is 4.8. And then once again, there's no one in our other age group. So if we were to add all this information up, we would get a total of 22.8 rat babies. Now we got to figure out how many survived. And I'm going to go ahead and pause the video and go ahead and do all this math just to kind of save us some. Okay, that's how many rat babies survived. Okay, now one thing I did notice is that when I was multiplying for my babies here, I used the wrong information. See, like here I use 0.9, here I use 0.9 for some odd reason, and here I use 0.6. I shouldn't have done that, so I'm going to change that real quick, and I'm sure you're probably yelling at the screen saying I messed up. So hold on once. Okay, I made the change here. So that's the information that we have now. 18.5 babies were born, and then 36.3 survived. So how many rats were born using this information? 18.5. How many rats died? Well, we started off with 50 and then we ended up with 36.3, so I believe that's 13.7. What is the new population of rats? Well, once again, that's babies plus who survived. So when we add that together, we would get a total of 54.8. So that's that information. So we are increasing with numbers again. And if you have any questions, let me know.